Instagram have just announced a new feature, and at least for me, this came as a surprise. They're calling it broadcast channels, and Instagram described this as a one-to-many messaging tools where creators can invite their followers into a channel. This is like a giant messaging kind of chat channel that they say creators will be able to use as a quick, casual way to keep their followers up to date. So what is this for? You might be thinking that this sounds a lot like just chat groups, like big DM groups, but they say that only creators can send messages, so it's one way. But members of the channel can react to those messages and take part in polls. So for us photographers, this is a little bit like an engagement group, but you're the boss. I guess you could liken it to speaking from a stage. You can talk to a large group, they tend not to speak back, when you can kind of gauge reaction. I'm normally pretty cynical about Instagram updates, but this actually solves a problem that I have and that many people have, maybe you have. If you think about stories, you can update everyone via your stories, but you only really hit 10%. But consider that 10% as a small portion of your audience. Now, if you have lots and lots of those 10%, like maybe 3 or 4, and you're updating each group with different information, that means that you're kind of hitting people with what they want to see, which I think is good for Instagram. I think the counter argument for this is going to be that many are going to be like, hold on, surely my account itself should be my broadcast channel. Why do I need to divide my followers up? That's just more work, right? Shouldn't my followers just see my content? But I think that Instagram's biggest issue right now is the amount of noise on the platform. And while a feature like this kind of creates even more noise, it kind of means that followers can opt in or opt out of that noise and that communication, meaning it's much more targeted and hopefully kind of a richer conversation. So a creator can also add voice notes to a broadcast channel. I think being part of a broadcast channel of someone that you look up to, like a celebrity or something, if you're a small group and that person's sending voice notes to the group, I think that feels a lot more personal than stories or reels. So how would you join one? When a creator first starts their broadcast channel, and I assume you can have multiple ones of these, there will be a one-time notification. After that notification, creators will be able to add an invite link to a story, for example, and I presume that there's a web link since that there's a copy link button in some of the images. And it also looks like you'd be able to share another creator's invite link for their channel, which is kind of crucial for discoverability. If you think about it like a really good newsletter for a friend, you can send them the subscribe link and your friend can join the newsletter based on your recommendation. One way that newsletters grow is word of mouth, and I think that's quite an important thing to have this as a way of being discovered and a way to grow if you're providing some sort of value to a community. And when you join that broadcast channel, it will show up in your Instagram inbox section. So how can this be used? There seems to be a kind of intended use for this, which I'll get into in a minute, but I think it will be interesting to see some of the more creative uses outside of kind of like the fan club experience. So here's a few ideas of some actually useful ways that I think this could be used. Feel free to steal, adapt these to your own account when it becomes available to you. So remember, you can add text, photos, videos, voice notes, and polls, and people can react to them. So that means that if you had a store page or a shop or a brand, you could have a sale page for people that actually want to hear about your sales first. That way you're not spamming everybody with, 20% off, 20% off. You've got a small group that kind of wants to hear about this first, so you can kind of supercharge your sales or limited edition stuff. If you had a fitness account, you could create a kind of motivation or accountability group where you could send periodic motivational polls or something to kind of check in with clients or followers. Now, as a photographer, I could have a broadcast channel for people who may want to use my services in the future. For example, on my cabins account, I have a feeling that many cabins and accommodation follow that account because at some point they might want to contact me and they're just kind of bookmarking me. I could have a whole chat to communicate with these people, tell them about available slots, or if I'm going to be photographing up in Scotland, is there anyone else who wants some photos doing at the same time? That will probably actually get me more work, so I see a real use there. Similarly, where you run a business where you offer one-to-one consultations or workshops, you could announce those slots through that broadcast channel, or you could offer kind of a more watered down kind of consultation to a larger group, and then anyone who wants to do a one-to-one could probably kind of hear about that through that channel, kind of a lead gen, I guess. If you could think of any more ideas that will help the community on this channel, just leave it in the comments. I'll pin the most creative idea to the top. They also say that they are looking to update it so that people can pay to subscribe to certain broadcast channels, which seems reasonable, I think. I feel like I might subscribe to someone's channel if it's valuable enough, much in the same way that newsletters provide so much value that I kind of feel like I should pay for some of them. But something to note is even though it kind of feels like a private chat, Instagram say that this is designed as a public, discoverable area. So if anyone is planning to use this as kind of like a private area, it's still subject to all of the same community guidelines as the rest of public Instagram. So are there any foreseeable issues? I can see one major issue for me is that I think that there is a mute channel button. So this means that if you create a broadcast channel, someone could join it, then they could get annoyed by it and mute instead of leaving. This will result in many people starting to worry about the lower rate of engagement within the channel. You know, they might be like, there's 100 people in here, but no one's responding to my polls or no one's clicking through to my website. This kind of takes Instagram's biggest problem and like creates lots of little versions of it where you've got a channel full of people, but instead of leaving, they've just muted, and that kind of ruins the kind of experience. I would just have a join or leave button. You can't mute it, you just leave if you don't like it, much in the same way that you should just unfollow if you don't want to see someone's content. But even that creates the same kind of anxiety. If you think about it this way, like, damn, I put something into the channel and 4 people just left. You know, I better stay up all night thinking about what I did wrong. I think that feeling is something that we don't need more of. So, when can you use it? Right now, Instagram is testing this feature with a bunch of creators, and they all seem to be the same kind of creator. It feels like Instagram are pushing this as a kind of like fan club experience. Whereas for me, I feel this is more of a community building experience. I've never really been the kind of fan club kind of guy, so I could be wrong, but I think that as long as there aren't any barriers to entry, you'll be able to use this however you like and however works for you, and it's in those moments that I think some of the really interesting creative ideas will happen. Now, I can't create one of these right now, and here in the UK, I can't join one either. It just says not available yet. Usually when we see this kind of testing, it's months before it's available to anyone, and sometimes never. But once it is available, I think the biggest benefit here is that you will be able to reach your most engaged followers kind of without fail, provided that they want to see it. And hopefully if they don't want to see that, they can just leave, and it will probably make it easier for you to keep track of who is active and who isn't. And that will kind of hopefully make Instagram feel less like you're just throwing content out into the dark. Seems exciting to me. I'll keep you posted on more updates, and I will catch you in the next one of these.